All right, folks, what's my take on Venezuela? It's concerning. Let's talk about it. Hey there, folks. This is Javier here, Javier Blog 208, coming to you live. I hope everyone's doing well tonight. Tonight, we're going to talk about Venezuela, and we're going to talk about it boldly and very honestly. I'll tell you straight up, I believe Trump broke international law by invading a sovereign country. And this should be very concerning to me. This should be very concerning because despite the fact that, this guy was a dictator, if you will, he's an illegitimate president, unlike us here. He was an illegitimate president, a dictator, but we had no business intervening in that. We had no business going to another country and capturing a president of another country. We had no business doing that. That being said, the bold truth about this is the entire point of this was to flex military might, if you will, of the United States, if you will, which I think is, which is just ridiculous. It's all this was about flexing military might and getting their oil, etc., etc., etc. And the reality is that knowing Trump, thinking that he can just do this, make the decision to invade Venezuela, capture the president, export him over the United States, is going to give him the idea that he can do this to other countries too. And they've already declared that, they want to do this to Cuba. They've already declared that they're warning Cuba too, that they're probably going to do the same thing there. And I'm already seeing right-wingers say, hey, do this to Iran, do this to so-and-so country, do this to so-and-so country. Right now, we're living in a time where the right is more emboldened than they've ever been. And the right, considering that Trump is the president of the right wing, and the right wing wants to flex military might. They want to show United States power as much as they can. And the very fact that Trump did this to Venezuela is going to open the possible door to him doing this to other countries and other countries and other countries, virtually any country that he wants to. And the invasion of a sovereign nation is invading a sovereign nation and capturing their leader is a violation and breaking international law. Mondami and the president of Mexico have rightfully condemned it. You're going to say, yes, the Venezuelans are celebrating, but at the same time, we have no business going into another country to capture their leader. I made a point about this in comparing this to when Germany was first getting started, both in World War I and in World War II. When Germany was first getting started, both in World War I and World War II, we have to remember the German invasion of Poland was to show, German military might. And when Germany invaded Poland, they realized this was such a success that we could start doing this to other countries and other countries and other countries. And that's exactly, even though the sources are not quite the same, the things are not quite the same, that's exactly what's going on here. For example, like what I was talking about just a minute ago, when Germany invaded Poland, that was their strength, that was their flexing of their military might. Our invasion of Venezuela to capture their leader was the flexing of our military might. When Germany invaded Poland, they realized this was such a success. We can start doing this to more and more and more countries. We can now invade England. We can now invade, France. We can now invade, etc., etc., etc. Over here, now that we have invaded Venezuela, we're already seeing the far right and, Trump allies saying we can now do this to Cuba. We can now do this to Iran. They're even some are even joking about doing it to Canada, or we can do this to Mexico, etc., etc., etc. So this is just a fair question, like how far is Trump going to go on this? How far, Trump is going to say the invasion of Venezuela was a success. We now, most Americans support what we did in Venezuela because America is moving very, very hard right wing, which is sad, which is a problem, a big problem in this country. An invasion of Venezuela was a success. The majority of Republicans in this country support it. Most right-wingers in this country are open to the idea of invading other countries. Now, Trump thinks he can do this unchecked, without checks and balances, just like he did there. And that should be an alarm bell ringing and something very scary. Something that is just genuinely very scary, thinking we can now invade any country we want, overthrow any government we want, And the Germans had the same mentality in World War I and II, which thus the reason why international laws were created. And now we're at this point where we're being gaslit by the right wing. We are being gaslit by the right wing into making fun of anybody who's even remotely speaking out against this criminal invasion, this invasion of Venezuela. And I already seen like anybody who's condemning it, whether it's Mondami, whether it's other figures on the left or other figures on the Democratic side. Anybody who's condemning it is just flat out being made fun of, being laughed at, being turned into a laughingstock, saying, look, this is the left defending a dictator. This is the left defending a foreign country. This is the left defending this and that and this and that and this and that. And the very fact in doing this and making fun of people who are condemning this, what they're doing is they're gaslighting us into saying submit, or basically saying submit, it's basically demanding submission into and demanding agreement, and saying that like if you think this was a good thing to do or the right thing to do, or if you're not celebrating this, you're just part of the stupid left or whatever. And it's just a way to bully you into submission. But the reality is those of us need to see through it. We need to see through for what it is. This was like Trump testing the waters, if you will. We did this to Venezuela, and now we can start doing this to other countries and other countries and other countries. And, even in Germany at that time, there were, probably anybody who was opposing invading Poland or invading other countries. Anybody in Germany at the time who likely opposed the invasion of Poland was turned into a laughingstock. With anybody today who is opposing the invasion of Venezuela is being turned into a laughingstock. And that's how they gaslight you. That's how they gaslight you. That's how they brainwash you. That's how they demand you to submit, and that's how they demand submission of you. And it just needs to be seen through. It needs to be spoken up against. This was a violation of international law. I get that Venezuelans are celebrating. I understand that. But at the same time, we still violated international law. We had no business going into a foreign nation and invading them. And this is going to open the door, knowing Trump, to wanting to do this to other countries. And we need to see it for what it is, and we need to speak out against it. Let's see the comments. You said that, oil is a big motivation behind it. Aside for that, resign. Yeah, that's true. Oil is a big motivation behind it, and that's one big thing America is about, is oil. That's one of the big reasons that's one of the big reasons Bush went into Iraq. That's one of the big reasons why, that had to do with a lot of the Middle Eastern wars. A lot of it had to do with oil. Oil is just a big thing, about it. They barely succeed in capturing Maduro and his wife. They couldn't get into some safe room in time. They barely succeeded in capturing Maduro's wife. They couldn't get into some safe room in time. I saw Ben Shapiro's show. I saw tons of Kyle Kalentry commentary on it too, but he's Zoran level left. Okay. Yeah. So they barely succeeded in doing that, but that's just what it was, That's just what it was. They got him, and that's just we had no business doing that. And it just once again, it goes back to my point. They're going to be, now that we did this, they're going to try to do this. They feel the open door. They're going to be able, they have the support from the public. They got the right gaslighting the left and gaslighting anybody who disagrees. And they got Trump in office, who wants to flex military might to show the so-called strength of the United States. And they are completely both Vance and Marco Rubio are warning Cuba, we're going to do this to you. The right is already saying, let's do this to this country and that country and this country and that country. I've seen their commentary. It's very scary. And knowing Trump, he feels like with this being a success, they're undoubtedly going to try to be doing this with other countries too. It's very scary. And don't be gaslit. Think for yourself. See through it for what it is. See the truth. See through it for what it is. Don't be gaslit, and think for yourself. That's really what it is. Just, I guess, if Venezuelans are happy he's gone, good for them. But we still had no business doing this. It was a violation of international law, and the president of Mexico was already called for saying the UN should be intervening if Trump continues to try to do this. And she already said the UN should already be intervening, and I agree with that. The UN should be intervening. When the United States is in the wrong, I will not take the side of the United States, and that's just what it is. Anyway, that's just what it is. We'll see what happens. We'll see how this unfolds. I think that's a good way to close up this video, relatively quick, just giving quick thoughts. We'll see what happens. Inappropriate move by the United States, but we'll just see what happens. Just remember, like I said, Germany wanted to flex their might, so they invaded Poland, or in the World War I, they invaded their first country, and they just thought they could keep doing it and doing it and doing it. And that's what Trump really, I believe in his heart of heart, wants to keep doing this and doing this and do this to expand what he wants to be his American empire. But I think that that's enough for today. Don't be gaslit. Think for yourself and just see through what is being told to you by the right. They want to bully you into submission. They want to and that's what they want. So don't buy into it. Thank you for watching. Take care. And that's all.